I was 26 when I first met Emeka at a wedding reception in Enugu. He wasn't the groom, but he carried himself like one. The fitted agbada swayed with each of his deliberate steps, and his smile, that confident curve of assurance, disarmed every woman within a 20-foot radius. I wasn't there to look for love. My cousin Chinwe had forced me out of the house, tired of my endless excuses and my monotonous job as a secretary at a transport firm. "You can't continue hiding from life, Ada," she had said. "You're not a widow. You're just single. Go. Mingle." And so I did, reluctantly, with a borrowed dress and powdered cheeks hiding my exhaustion. That night, I met the man who would promise me heaven with one hand and deliver me into hell with the other. Emeka was charming, eloquent, and commanding. Within minutes of our introduction, I found myself laughing more freely than I had in months. He was attentive, asking questions about my family, my dreams, and even how I took my Gary. "Any man who doesn't know how you like your Gary has no business calling you his woman," he teased, and I blushed, unused to such tailored attention. That night, he walked me to Chinwe's car, opened the door like a gentleman, and waited until she drove off. I didn't sleep a wink. My heart danced all night, my mind playing out conversations that hadn't even happened yet. By the next morning, he had messaged me. "Good morning, Ada. You looked like poetry yesterday." That was the beginning of my undoing. Our courtship was swift, intense, and filled with fairy tale gestures that made me forget the weight of my own caution. Within 3 months, Emeka had met my parents, sent his own family for introduction, and started building the foundation for what he called our forever. He'd bought me a small car, a Corolla I could barely believe was mine, and taken me to Lagos for the first time, showing me beaches, restaurants, and a lifestyle that seemed ripped from glossy magazines. He spoke about our future with conviction. 2 children, a house in Lekki, and a life that would make others envious. I was swept off my feet by a tidal wave of promises and plans. I remember my mother saying during our traditional marriage, "Ada, a man who moves this fast usually has a secret, but I will not stand in the way of your joy." I laughed it off, chalking it up to parental paranoia. I didn't know that a storm often looks like peace in the beginning. Emeka and I got married in the dry heat of December, under a cascade of white tents and over 1,000 eyes. He had spared no expense. There were fireworks, imported wines, a live band from Abuja, and a photographer who followed me into the bathroom just to capture raw bridal emotion. I was overwhelmed but flattered. As I stood beside Emeka in front of the pastor, repeating vows of eternal loyalty and love, I felt like a queen finally finding her king. Everyone around us saw a perfect couple. No one noticed the way his fingers dug into my waist every time I looked away too long, or how he leaned in to whisper corrections about my posture and smile. It was subtle then, almost invisible. Love often masks its red flags with flowers. Our honeymoon in Mauritius was paradise, at least on the surface. On the second night, while I was dancing playfully in our hotel room in nothing but his oversized shirt, he accused me of being flirtatious with the waiter at dinner. "I saw the way you smiled at him," he said coldly. I laughed, thinking it was a joke. His slap came so fast it spun my neck. The silence that followed was so thick I thought I'd gone deaf. I remember holding my face, not because of the pain, but the shock. Emeka had hit me, my husband, my dream. He cried afterward, tears and apologies tumbling out in confusion. "I don't know what came over me, Ada. Please forgive me. I love you. I can't stand the thought of you looking at another man. I was wrong. I'll never do it again." I believed him. Of course I did. I had to. We had only just started this life. I told myself it was the stress, the pressure of the wedding, jet lag, too much wine, anything but the truth. That night he held me as I cried, rocking me back and forth like a wounded child. And so the cycle began. When we returned to Nigeria, the charade continued. To the world, we were the power couple, the stylish husband and his elegant wife, gracing events with coordinated outfits and staged laughter. On Instagram, we were couple goals. At home, however, I began to walk on eggshells. Emeka controlled everything, from the clothes I wore to the tone I used while speaking to his friends. He would listen to my phone calls, check my messages, and accuse me of things I couldn't even comprehend. "You sighed after Namdi's joke. Why? Do you like him?" Why did it take you 4 minutes to return from the supermarket? It's just around the corner. At first, it was emotional warfare. Then it became physical. Not every day, not every week, but often enough that I began to see bruises as routine. I stopped visiting my family. He claimed they disrespected him. I quit my job because he said a wife's place was not behind a desk and he would take care of me. And he did, financially. But he robbed me of everything else: my autonomy, my self-worth, my voice. I remember staring at myself in the mirror one morning, unable to recognize the woman with hollow cheeks and haunted eyes. I whispered, "Is this what marriage is supposed to be?" But even that voice inside me had grown quiet. The Ada that once laughed with abandon had been replaced by a woman who flinched at the sound of keys turning in the door. The most terrifying part wasn't the violence, it was the confusion. Emeka would beat me with a belt one night and send me roses the next morning. He would yell curses that made my ears ring, only to kiss my forehead as I cried in bed. He played the role of lover and monster with terrifying ease, and I kept trying to earn his love back, thinking maybe if I cooked better, dressed prettier, prayed harder, he would return to being the man who called me poetry. But he never did. He evolved into something darker. He began to isolate me from everyone. My sister, my friends, even Chinwe, who once begged me to leave. "You'll die in that house, Ada," she said. But I couldn't bring myself to leave. Where would I go? My father had warned me before the wedding. In our culture, a woman must endure. Don't come back home crying marriage is hard. That voice echoed in my mind each time Emeka apologized, each time he broke me and stitched me up with tears and sex. I learned how to hide bruises with makeup, how to smile without showing pain. I learned how to keep secrets, even from myself. The violence became part of the rhythm of our marriage, and I, the unwilling dancer in a deadly choreography.